Yeah, because like honestly, I don't know what the right answer is when it comes to creators' responsibility for their fan bases. Because like since we've talked about it a few times, I'll often see comments with different perspectives wherever, and like I can kind of put ourselves in this position. Maybe you want to talk about it a little bit because I remember when you were first becoming very popular, there were some accusations that your fan base was being annoying or disrespectful to other nail artists specifically, right? And I remember at the time, like, we didn't really know what to think or do about that. Is that something that needs to be addressed? Is it something you just need to acknowledge that, like, if you have millions of followers, a few of them are going to be bad and annoying, and you're not going to, like, make a YouTube video just telling, like, a handful of people not to be jerks? So, like, I guess, has your opinion changed about that over time?
I feel like I have the benefit, just to be completely transparent, of learning about all this like influence, responsibility, and fan bases when I was a lot older than the average person who gets famous on YouTube these days. So I was 26, let's say, when I blew off, blew up, blew off, what, popped off, I don't know. And I guess, but what I'm saying is like I had already gone through high school, gone through certain like dealing with insecurities of my own. Not to say that I'm never insecure past that, but I feel like I kind of matured after and out of high school into university, and you just look at things with a different perspective and don't give as much meaning to things that shouldn't have as much meaning to you and shouldn't hurt you as personally. So I had that advantage of being older in this internet world. And I feel like that kind of changed my reactions, where I didn't have as many like gut reactions to maybe defend myself or go out and protect people, because I was at that stage already where I understood that this is the internet. There's always a small subset that's going to behave poorly. You should just do your best to set a good example and accept that you will not be able to make everyone behave as you want them to. So that was always kind of my perspective, and it is today. I've definitely changed, adapted, and learned a lot. But maybe we should just summarize like what kind of happened, right? So several years ago, when I first blew up, and I was really obsessed with Hollow. I mean, I still am, but that was kind of my thing. I was always joking about like, is it real Hollow? And as a result, my fans picked up on that language. And then I saw an unintended consequence of that was people would take that language and post it on other smaller creators like nail artist account and say things like that's not real Hollow, or simply Nailogical would not approve, or even if it was nail art and they thought I was better at it, whether that was true or not, they would say like simply Nailogical could do this better. And then
Sorry, I need to pump the brakes on this a little because
this is a minority
you're
of
showing
comments.
that those are the worst examples of it.
Yeah.
But I think what was more commonly the case was you exploded in popularity as a nail artist, and people were excited about that. And what I remember seeing a lot on other nail artists' account were just people like tagging you. That was 99% of it.
Yeah.
People
Sorry,
would go to a
I was gonna
smaller
add.
nail artist account and just say, simply Nailogical, look at this. And I got the impression a lot of people were just angry that on their smaller accounts that weren't getting a lot of views, half their comments were just mentioning someone else who did nail art.
Yeah, you're right. That's where I was gonna end, was that a lot of it was also just people tagging me to see. What you don't realize when you're like an average Instagram user is that when you tag someone with 1 million followers, they're not gonna see it. So what ultimately happened was people were tagging me just like without any malicious intent, not trying to insult the nail artist, but they would tag me like simply Nailogical look. That's it, innocent. I never saw that tag, or I don't see those tags because I get too many tags. But the smaller artist who you tagged me on saw that out of their 10 comments, and they see that way more than I do, and it becomes an issue for them when they see someone else being mentioned and at what is essentially their property. It's like if you go to someone else's house and then you're like, everyone come over here to this other big mansion. You know, we're all going to party over there. And then the person's house who you're there looking at their art is like, excuse me, like that's not very nice. And they get hurt, understandably so. And so yeah, like I feel bad that that happened. And I definitely don't think that most of the comments tagging me were doing it to insult the smaller account. I think they were just think it's fun to tag me in things that were hollow. They did it on brand accounts too. I'm sure brands were like annoyed, and maybe that's why some brands reached out to me, because they were like, people keep tagging you, maybe we could work together. So I also saw that. But I guess, where am I going with this?
I don't know. Like
This just happens, and I learned early on that this happens when you have a fan base, and there is always going to be a portion of it that isn't so good for other people around in the same community. And it's tough because, I'm someone with millions of subscribers, and a small proportion of people who comment on my posts may be negative, but I don't notice them or pay attention to them because I have so many other comments that are positive. However, if I'm a smaller creator and I get an average of 10 comments per post, and 5 of them were tagging Simply Nailogical, and it's like 2017 and this is happening, then I'm annoyed because all of a sudden the majority of my comments are about someone else.
So I guess the question though is, at what point does a creator have a responsibility to try to like mitigate or like address that situation? Because I remember how we looked at it at the time, and we talked about this, was that like most of the comments were kind of harmless, tagging you. And then, yeah, you're right. In a handful of cases, there were some annoying comments like, that's not real, hollow, Simply Nailogical is better, right? But when you have, millions of followers and you're getting millions of views, you're not going to make a YouTube video going out to your millions of followers to lecture them because 100 of them are being annoying to other people on the internet, right? So I guess I still don't know what you could have done differently or what would have made sense. Like, I think you had posted on Snapchat at one point, or like your lesser social media.
I told people not to annoy others with by tagging me unnecessarily or by saying mean things about like something not being hollow or whatever. I did tell people that at some point on stories, but at the end of the day, as an adult, I realized that there's kids who don't really care. If you try and tell them not to do something, they're gonna do what they do, just like with any fandom who becomes like in love with their idol. They're gonna defend them even if they think they're doing them a favor. But in this case, those people commenting those things were not doing me a favor, right?
Yeah,
like it's not a good look, and it's not productive for the Simply Nailogical community or the people who actually love hollow and the joy of nail polish and like want to make friends with each other. Like, that kind of stuff isn't helpful.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of sad because it contributed to a lot of nail artists just
Negativity.
deciding they didn't like you.
Yeah, oh, of course. People didn't. There were smaller creators who didn't like me just because of my level of fame, is what I mostly concluded. And I just kind of accepted that, and that is what comes with being famous, I guess. But it reminded me a lot of when before I was as big as having a community of my own who kind of went out of their way to comment Simply Nailogical everywhere. I saw something similar when I was a smaller creator. And when I first started making videos with my face, I was doing like some now retrospectively cringy routine looking back. But at a certain time on YouTube, 80% of my comments were, stop trying to be Jenna Marbles. Because here I was, this new girl who thinks she's funny, and I'm kind of cringy, and a lot of my mannerisms they were like Jenna. I'm not denying it.
You were very much influenced by it.
I was, and I admitted that for sure. That's who I watched. That's who I look up to. That's the humor. That's the style of humor I liked. But because no one knew me, I didn't have a real fan base at the time. There was a lot of people just being like, stop trying. You're not funny. You'll never be Jenna Marbles. And that was the majority of my comments for a small, like maybe a month period, 2 months period. And that hurt a lot. But I looked at that as understanding, because I think I was 25 or 26, that like, this is what happens because Jenna is just so huge. And I knew, even though I did not know her personally, that she is not endorsing or telling people to say this to other female content creators. I'm sure she would have hated that idea if she were asked that question.
Yeah, I don't know if it's even her fans that would have been doing that, because they're such a positive
I
fan
don't know.
base, right?
Exactly. It may not even be her fans. It may just be people who know her and know that she, in their minds, was the real OG female comedy content creator, and that anyone else who was trying to do that was just a wannabe. So I was made to feel like that through comments. But even though that was the majority of people talking to me in my comment section, I still understood that, like, this is kind of just what happens, and I'm going to have to listen to this and deal with it and keep moving forward. And that I only was able to do that, I think, because I was older and felt like I already understood that this is just what happens on the internet. And so that kind of became my thought process moving forward, that when it happened to others later, smaller content creators who were getting insulted because I was famous and people were comparing us, I just thought back to that moment. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't feel bad that this was happening, but I kind of just accepted it as a reality of the internet and a reality of fan bases.
Yeah, and like a lot of people, I think, starting out on the internet, their first YouTube videos, you can often see their influence they have of what they're trying to do and who they're influenced by. And I think you developed your own identity pretty quickly.
I evolved. I was cringy. Like, I don't know.
Were.
I am cringy. But, like, you
now
learn.
You're your own brand of cringy.
You post things. People have opinions. People will always think that someone else is better than you.